supper time. Over by the courthouse, they're starting to unwind. 4 kids on the corner trying to bring you up. Willie picks out a tune and he blows it on the hop. Down on the corner, out in the streets, Willie and the poor boys are playing. Bring a nickel and tap your feet. That one's a fun and easy one. I like that one. So after 2 years of working as a nursing assistant at Copley Hospital, a cascade of events occurred, beginning with getting robbed, a girlfriend problem that escalated significantly. I had moved in, actually, with a former patient from the hospital named George. And George's wife, it's a good story. George was a World War II veteran, and he came to the unit one day because he had lost his leg, the rehab unit, his leg from the knee down, or actually the knee up, from above the knee down. And George had trouble getting his leg working, and I actually helped him with some of his PT outside of work. But George was having trouble living alone, and since I couldn't afford my place and I had been robbed, I thought, well, maybe I'll move in with George. He's offering me a room. And so I did. George lost his leg in World War II because he was it the Battle of the Bulge? Whatever the one was that it got really cold. And he got frostbite on his feet, and he had no feeling in his feet. And he had stepped on a nail, and he didn't know that his foot had become infected. And so by the time he had noticed and done something, they had to take the whole leg off. And, George was a really sweet guy. And his wife, whom he had cared for, had Alzheimer's, had left all sorts of messes around the house. And so before I moved in, I cleaned the entire upstairs, including all the dust, which was inches thick. And because of my girlfriend problems, I had actually stopped eating. I dropped about 10, 15 pounds. I was light. And in connection with the dust, I developed pneumonia. And with the pneumonia, I lost a couple of days of work, and amongst other things, I was fired. And I applied around, and this would have been 1993, right in the spring, May, June, and I didn't know what to do. And so I messed around a little bit, and then by late June, I made the decision that I wasn't going to be able to stay in Illinois doing what I was doing. And my mom had offered, if I wanted to go back to school, that I could move up to Tomahawk with her and go back to the tech school. It was about 20 miles away. And that, at the moment, seemed like the most reasonable option that I could take, because I just hadn't found the success that I was looking for, the path that I felt like I was supposed to be on. And so I think it was mid or late June, I moved to Wisconsin for good, June or so of 1993. And to this day, nobody has any idea why Mom moved to Tomahawk, Wisconsin. She got a trailer up there, and she drove an hour south to Wausau to the healthcare center for work every day, and then eventually bought an old farmhouse that had been turned into a resort, cabins, on this beautiful little lake. And so she had the puffer sailboat there, and I got my sailboard from my dad's, my sailboard, and I spent the summer learning how to windsurf and sailing on my puffer. And suddenly I went from feeling like things were really tough and I was failing to having some normalcy. And it turned out that she said, well, maybe you should look at the golf course. You like to golf, see if there's a job over there. And I went over, and the owner said, well, I might. I've got someone I'm deciding whether or not I'm going to invest in, keeping, who doesn't like to show up for work, or not. And so he called me the next day, and I spent the rest of that summer and that fall as a beer cart vendor and a bartender at the Inshallah Golf Course in Tomahawk, which was right across the street from the house that my mom eventually bought, my mom and her partner, actually. And so it was a wonderful opportunity for the entire summer, and I had an incredible time. But when I got out to tech school, when I went off to tech school that fall, it was scary. I was a terrible student, absolutely awful. But I actually got a 4.0 in that first semester. And I got, I think, a 3.5 or a 4.0 in the second semester. And I suddenly realized that there were tools available that would improve my schooling. One tool was that I could take a class for an hour and a half and then have a half hour, an hour off. So I wasn't constantly being engaged in it. And I went to the school newspaper, and I got to be the photo editor for the school newspaper, which meant I actually got to not only take all the pictures, but we used, of course, black and white film. I got to develop all my own pictures, and I got to play around in the photo lab and experiment with that. And it was an incredible year of just growing and learning and doing things that I had no idea, literally in the turmoil I was in a year before, that I would find so much happiness in school and in the activities at the school. And there was a lot of exploration about what I was going to continue to do that dominated my life and what I wasn't. And so, having failed algebra, for example, not once, not twice, but 3 times, they put me in a pre-algebra class. And oddly enough, it was a self-teaching class. The teacher sat in the front of the room, and you did your pre-algebra, and then you passed the tests, and then you did your algebra in the next semester. And so I got my algebra out of the way, doing it in almost a self-teaching manner, which I finally sat down and did the math like I was supposed to. And I picked it up pretty well. And I did the same thing in chemistry. I learned a lot in chemistry. And it was the chemistry class that I met my future wife in. And that was always a good fun time to be in there. And so Wisconsin welcomed me very warmly. And I was very grateful to not only find a job, but to find success in school. I was making some friends. I met my future wife. And there were just a lot of really good things going on. And in this video, I'm just going to talk about my experiences in college through tech school, because UW River Falls is a whole hot ball of wax I want to talk about. When I look at schooling, I realized that there was a lot of good information coming in through these classes, but there was also a lot of experience to be had. And that experience, once I opened myself up to it, turned out to be really rich. I would remain a part of the newspaper, school newspaper, at my next college. And I would get involved in other extracurricular activities that, even as I look at it today, it was amazing. And I was grateful to come to Wisconsin. And so this week's going to be a shorter video, mostly because I wanted to get those ideas off that, when I left Illinois, I had to make a decision to change my paradigm. And changing that paradigm, giving up on what I thought I wanted, and instead of pursuing what I really needed, was a great experience and a growth. So I hope you guys have a great week, and Stinky will be back next weekend. And I'm going to tell you about UW River Falls, and that will be fun. Thank you. Take care.